Natural selection is organisms with traits best suited to their environment are most likely to survive and reproduce. This is the survival of the fittest. Members of each species will compete for food, space, and mates. Predators that can run faster catch more prey. Prey that are better able to camouflage avoid being caught. Individuals of a species have variations. These variations affect the survival and reproduction of individuals. Some variations enhance survival and reproduction in the offspring. These traits will become more common in the population over time. Natural selection key points. Natural selection is a process that occurs in nature without human interference. Natural selection increases Natural selection increases species' chance of survival. Natural selection is individual organisms in a species show a range of variation because of differences in their genes. Class, don't forget, variation means a different form or version of something. For example, humans have variation within our species. That is why we have existed for a very long time, because we are genetically diverse. We have variation in our genes, therefore, we have survived this long because of variation in our species. Individuals that are best adapted to their environment are more likely to survive and pass their traits on to their offspring. Successful adaptations are in a larger proportion in the next generation. So class, if it's in green, please write it down in your journal. Okay? Now, let's talk, we learned about Darwin's finches yesterday. So now let's talk about another organism. For example, insects. We know that butterflies, their mouth resembles a straw because they are removing the pollen from a flower. A bee has a mouth similar to a straw also because they are pollinators and they feed off of flowers. Now a beetle, she or he has a mouth similar to, say, teeth or a pincher because they are chewing their food. A housefly is going to, they consume dead matter. They're decomposers, so they have a mouth that is not similar to any of these other organisms here. And a grasshopper eats grass and leaves, so their mouth is not similar to the rest of the insects. So their mouth parts have modifications that are adapted to the insect's method of feeding. Now, think about, why did Darwin's finches have different sizes and shapes of their beaks? When Charles Darwin studied the Galapagos finches, he noticed that finches from different islands had variation in beak sizes. Natural selection caused differences in the finches to arise due to differences in available food on each island. So, class, at this point, you're going to glue in your diagram. You will write this right next to your diagram in your journal of Darwin's finches. Okay. Now, Charles Darwin, he developed the theory of natural selection. He traveled around the world studying different types of different species of plants and animals. He learned that natural selection explains how traits in species can change over time because their environment changes. Now, example of natural selection, let's think about the giraffes. Here we have a diagram of giraffes. So number 1 says, each species shows variation. 2 says, there is competition within each species for food, living space, water, and mates. 3 says, the better adapted environments of these species are more likely to survive, which means survival of the fittest. Number 4 says, These survivors will pass on their better genes to their offspring, who will also show this beneficial variation. Now, environmental factors. We talk about when an organism's environment changes, either they will migrate, adapt, or they will die. Environmental factors will impact species' ability to survive over a long period of time. Factors are biotic, which is living. This includes predators, plants, or food source, consumers finding mates, or number of species. Abiotic factors are temperature, rain, fire, pollution, and soil conditions. Each species of organisms have their own set of characteristics. Okay, so let's think back to the moths again. Okay, we know that the white moths right here, they may lay many eggs which develop into caterpillars into adults. That is reproduction. Now, when the caterpillars they turn into moths, they show variation among their species. We have the white moths and the brown moths. A moth might be born with variation that makes them brown in color. Competition in predators. Predators are able to find the white moths more easily than the brown moths. The brown moths survive to reproduce, while many white moths do not. Selection. Eventually, moths with brown coloration make up a larger part of the moth population than white moths.